What's up, guys? MCMMA here, and today I am going to be reacting to the fight night last night, headlined by Reinier de Ritter and Brendan Allen. Um, Overall, this was a great fight night. Ton of exciting fights, a lot of finishes, a lot of upsets too. So my picks on this one weren't great, but yeah, let's just get right into it. All right, starting off with our main event. Brendan Allen pulled off the pretty big upset, forcing Reinier de Ritter to quit on the stool after the fourth round. Um, in the first round, it looked like RDR was kind of just going to have his way with Brendan Allen, as a lot of people were kind of expecting going into the fight. He controlled him on the ground pretty dominantly, but in the second round, he got reversed, and after that reversal, it just looked like he completely gassed out. I mean, Brendan Allen started like hitting him with some vicious ground and pound. Uh, De Ritter came back out in the third, did the exact same thing, immediately shot for a takedown and got reversed quickly, and got his ass beat again on the ground. And then by the fourth round, I mean, the dude could barely walk, and Brendan Allen instantly shoots a takedown, does the same thing that he's been doing in rounds 2 and 3, and after the end of the round, De Ritter quit on the stool. He had nothing left. Um, Obviously, this is a huge win for Brendan Allen. I did think that coming into this, he was being kind of disregarded by a lot of fans and I guess experts too. A lot of people weren't really giving him the credit that he deserves, since he is a very skilled fighter. But oftentimes in the past, his issue has been fight IQ, and in this fight, his fight IQ looked great, especially with him choosing to shoot on De Ritter at the start of the fourth round. I thought that was a good sign of what's to come in terms of his fight IQ. And I don't know if it's the new team that he's been working with. I know that he was working with Bilal Muhammad's team for this camp, so I would assume that he's probably going to be working with them going forward. But he looked great. And for De Ritter, obviously this is a bit of a setback. I think one thing that I would like to see from him is probably less activity, just because he cuts a ridiculous amount of weight since he's such a huge middleweight. And I think that making that weight cut like 4 times a year just isn't sustainable. So he's probably going to need to cut down on his fights, probably fight like twice a year or something. But it's definitely not the end for him. I think Brendan Allen is one of the few guys in the division who poses a really difficult stylistic matchup for Ritter. I think that he's generally going to struggle against guys who have really strong grappling, since he can't just kind of impose his will on them on the ground. But I think that he will probably stay around the top 5 of the division, just because of how dominant he can be against guys that are both smaller than him and guys who have weaker grappling than he does, which is most of the division. In terms of what's next, Brendan Allen he called out 3 people. I think he called out Hamzat. That's obviously not going to happen. He called out Dricus. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. And he called out Sean Strickland. I think Dricus or Sean Strickland would both make sense for Brendan Allen, but I would prefer the Dricus matchup. I think it's a little more interesting, since we've already seen Brendan Allen fight Sean Strickland. And for Reinier de Ritter, he's probably going to have to take another little bit of a step down. I've heard Kyle Bohayo get mentioned. I wouldn't love that, since I don't necessarily want to see Kyle get another fight up the rankings, since I think he's been kind of coddled by the matchmakers in terms of giving him preferable fights up the rankings. I know De Ritter himself called out Sean Strickland on Twitter. I also don't think that should happen, since that would be another fight up the rankings, which you don't necessarily deserve after a loss, especially in the fashion that he lost. I mean, quitting on the stool is a really bad look, but he'll get another top 10 opponent. But yeah, I think this one surprised a lot of people. I know it surprised me. I picked a Ritter, so yeah, I mean, I guess I was wrong. All right, moving on to the co-main event. We had Mike Malott defeat Kevin Holland by decision. This was a really weird fight. Malott hit Holland with 2 low blows in the first round, and Kevin Holland took the full 5 minutes, And even for the rest of the round, he kept like clutching on his cup and shit. And he was like, it seemed to either he was faking it or truly was bothering him. And even up until like in between rounds, at the start of the second round, it still seemed like he wasn't necessarily going to be able to keep fighting. But he kept going. Um, I mean, Mike Malott looked pretty good. I don't know how much of that was affected by the groin shots. I don't know how like compromised Kevin Holland was for the rest of the fight after that. But Malott looked pretty solid. I think he should theoretically enter the rankings now since he just beat number 15 Kevin Holland. But uh, whether he gets a rank or whether he gets a ranking or not, he should be fighting a ranked opponent next. Um, Probably someone in like the 10 to 15 range, even though that is kind of it's pretty clogged up right now with like I know Bonfim, Gabriel Bonfim is gonna fight what's his name, Randy Brown. Maybe he could fight like Daniel Rodriguez or something, but he'll get a ranked opponent for Kevin Holland. I mean, who fucking knows what's next for him? I mean, like for most people, I wouldn't say this, but since it is Kevin Holland, like you gotta at least consider the possibility that he was just looking for a way out of the fight. We've seen him do it before, like against I forget which Dawkins brother it was. It was either Chris or Kyle, but he got headbutted and he just quit. Like he didn't want to fight anymore. He did the same shit against Roman Dolidze last year. I think he like broke a rib or something and he just stopped. Like he didn't want to keep fighting. So I'm not sure if you can give Holland the benefit of the doubt here, but I mean obviously he'll be back whenever the UFC needs some short notice opponent, or whether they want to try and give somebody like a step up in terms of popularity, since Kevin Holland is a pretty popular name. Um, he'll be back sooner or later. But yeah, this one's a pretty weird fight. All right. Uh, this one was pretty controversial. I know Cheeto threw a huge hissy fit when they announced that Zahavi won the fight. I personally thought Zahavi won. I gave him rounds 1 and 3. Despite that fact, this was a fight that Cheeto easily could have won. I mean, he's clearly more skilled than Amin Zahavi. I mean, I honestly don't understand. Like, you got to respect Zahavi for this, but like, he has such little skill for a guy who's beating the names that he is, like beating Cheeto. He beat Jose Aldo before this, even though he didn't. I don't think that he won that fight, but still, he just fucking presses forward and just throws. He just throws punches. Very little technique, very little skill, but I mean, he keeps moving up the rankings, so you got to give him credit for that. But Cheeto had him hurt pretty bad in the second round. He dropped him with a jab, and then instead of trying to follow up, because like Zahabi, it wasn't just like a flash knockdown. He was pretty clearly hurt. Instead of trying to get a finish or capitalize on that, Cheeto just fucking stood staring at him until he recovered. I mean, it truly baffles me how this dude will just fucking stand there doing nothing for probably 11, 12 minutes out of the 15 minutes of his fights, and then fucking throw a fit after and think that he got robbed. Like, he easily could have won this, and he just didn't. Like, it's the same shit with him every single time. So, for Zahavi, he's probably gonna get a title eliminator next, to be honest. Most likely somebody in the top 5. He called out Sean O'Malley. I don't think that's going to happen, since I think O'Malley's probably going to fight Song Yadong next. But I could see him fighting maybe like a Sandhagen or like Figgy or somebody like that. Somebody close to that top 5 range. Maybe he'd fight like the loser of Merab versus Yan. For Cheeto, I mean, I don't even know what you do next with him. I think at this point he's probably just going to be a gatekeeper, since he like actively refuses to make any changes in his like fight style and how he goes about his fights. He said going into this one he was going to be more aggressive, and he wasn't. It was just the same old Cheeto. So I'm not sure what he does from here, but this was a pretty good fight. This was a very entertaining fight, and yeah, we'll see what's next for both of these guys. All right, next up was, honestly, this might have been the biggest shocker of the night. Not in terms of who won. I did pick Manon Fiorot to win, but I would have never guessed that she would have gotten a finish at any point in this fight. Like, even less in the first round. She just, not flatlined Jasdavicius, but she floored her quickly in like the first, yeah, I know, it was at a minute 14. That was, I mean, I'm still kind of surprised by it. I thought Fiorot was just kind of going to pitter pat her way to a decision, since that's how she tends to win her fights. But she must have known that she needed some urgency. I know she's like 35 or 36, so she probably realizes she doesn't have much time left. But that was an amazing performance by her. I don't know if she's going to immediately get another title shot. I think she potentially could if Wei Li beats Valentina Shevchenko at UFC 322. But if Shevchenko wins, I think Fiorot would most likely need one more win, since Shevchenko did just beat her earlier this year. But that was a huge win for Fiorot. For Jasdavicius, it is a tough setback, but I think that with the way, or with her recent activity and the fact that she's actually been getting finishes, she should probably be back sooner or later. She's definitely going to get another top 10 opponent after this. And if she keeps doing what she was doing before this fight, she will be back in a similar position pretty soon. So, amazing performance by Fiorot. And yeah, I would have never guessed that Fiorot was going to get a round one knockout in like a million years. All right, on to the next one. Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. Holy shit, dude. Jourdain looked amazing in this one. I picked Davy Grant going into this one, and I know that a lot of other people did. I think this was the lead up to this fight was when a lot of people were truly kind of like appreciating how like good Davy Grant is and how good the run that he had been on was. But wow, Jourdain just shut that down quickly. His striking looked really clean. Those flying knees that he was landing were sick. I mean, he landed two. The first one, Davy Grant's got a chin on him. He pretty much completely ate the first one, and he ate a number of other clean shots from Jourdain. But the second one was absolutely beautiful. I honestly don't know how Grant didn't immediately get knocked out by that, but he ended up on the bottom. Jourdain hit him with some ground and pound and then locked in his signature guillotine. And yeah, that was an amazing performance by Jourdain. I think he should definitely be getting a top 15 opponent after that one, since he's on a 2-fight win streak at bantamweight, and he was kind of on the fringe of the top 15 at featherweight for a while. Yeah, that was a sick fight. I know he called out Marcus McGee. I think that one makes a lot of sense, and I would love to see it next. All right, another weird-ass fight. Kyle Nelson beats Matt Frevola by decision. Dan Mergliotta, there's got to be something. He either had a ton of money on this fight going to the scorecards, or he's just completely lost it, because he stopped the first round with like 3 seconds to go and then pretended that he didn't do it and made them keep going. Like, that should have been a first round knockout for Kyle Nelson. It wasn't even close to the buzzer. And I mean, credit to Matt Frevola for thugging it out for the next 10 minutes, since he was clearly hurt badly at the end of that first. And he kept getting hurt throughout the rest of the fight. I don't know if Kyle Nelson maybe wanted to take it easy on him for the rest of the fight, but regardless of the circumstances with the refereeing, that's a good win for Kyle Nelson. It's his first fight at lightweight, and he picks up a win against a pretty decent name. He's probably looking at one more win before he would potentially get a top 15 opponent, but that was a big win for him. I'm not going to necessarily say that he looked great, since this was a pretty sloppy fight, but he hurt Frevola over and over again. It looked like he's got a lot more pop at 155, so I'm excited to see what's next for him. As for Matt Frevola, I kind of want to just see him retire at this point. I mean, his chin's gone. He's gotten absolutely battered in his last 3 fights. I mean, got knocked out cold by Benoit, got knocked out cold by Fares Siam, should have gotten knocked out by Kyle Nelson, and then had to endure another 2 rounds of punishment after that. Um, I really like Matt Frivola. He's a very likable guy, and I don't want to see him get beat up anymore. So I doubt he actually does retire, but I think that is what would be best for him. But yeah, all right, let's move on to the prelims. Kyle Prepelec versus Drew Dober. This was another kind of weird fight. It was a sick fight, first of all. Prepelec looked a lot better than I was expecting. I didn't really think that he was a UFC level guy going into this one, but he definitely proved that he has a place in the UFC. And Dober, I mean, Dober looked solid. His chin clearly isn't there since he was getting hurt by. I mean, Prepelec is not like a fantastic striker. I mean, he's super slow, and he was getting hurt by some shots that he probably shouldn't have even been getting hit with. But it was a good win for him. Obviously, he kicked Kyle Nelson in the nuts early in the third round, and he got a point deducted for it. Then after that, he just was dialed in, immediately went in for the kill. So credit to Dober for knowing what he needed to do. I honestly wasn't really a fan of that point deduction. I mean, it was very clearly unintentional, and I feel like, especially with how they handled the Kevin Holland fight later on, when he got hit twice in the groin and Malott didn't get a point taken away from him. I feel like you got to at least let one slide before you start taking points. But I think the point deduction honestly helped Drew Dober, because after that he was like, oh shit, I need to get a finish or else I'm going to lose this fight. And that's what he did. So good performance by both of these guys, honestly. I'm not sure who necessarily they're going to fight next, but I think Prepelec should definitely get another fight in the UFC. He looked pretty solid in this one, and it was a great bounce back win for Dober, who was on I think 3 or 4 fight losing streak coming into this one. So yeah, that was good for him. Cody Gibson versus Auri Chilang. That was a sick knockout from Auri Chilang. Going into this one, the consensus was that if Cody Gibson was going to win, he was going to have to grapple, and it looked like he had zero intentions of grappling, and he paid the price. Got knocked out in 20 seconds. I mean, this was not like, these dudes are not particularly high-level fighters, so I'm not really sure, like, in terms of matchups, what you would do next for them. But Auri Lang is a very fun fighter. I would like to see him continue to get matched up against strikers, so we can keep getting banger fights, because, I mean, we've seen, like, in the Raul Rosas fight, we've seen what happens when he gets matched up against grapplers. His grappling is not very strong, and he kind of just gets controlled, and it ends up being a very boring fight. But I was not really in the know about Auri Lang before this one. I didn't know that his nickname was the Mongolian Murderer, which is sick as fuck. So I'll definitely have my eye out for him whenever his next fight is. All right, another upset here. Bruno Silva honestly dominates Young Sung Park. Bruno Silva looked great in this one. I mean, that's really the only way to put it. I thought that he was going to get destroyed, to be perfectly honest, and he looked great. His striking looked crisp. One thing I will say is he is a fucking serial cheater. This dude's always poking people in the eye or kicking them in the nuts. We saw what he did to Manel Cap, kicked him 3 times in the nuts. Against Young Sung Park, he had his fingers fully... he had the fingers in his lead hand fully extended every single time Park would try and come towards him. So, I mean, it's so frustrating to watch, because the reality is, if you aren't cheating, you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, because in 99% of fights, you will get away with at least 1 or 2 fouls before the referee actually does something. And these fouls will give you an advantage. I mean, getting poked in the eye fucking hurts. Getting kicked in the nuts fucking hurts. And it puts your opponent at more of a disadvantage than it does for you when you're not getting a fight, or when you're not getting a point taken away for committing these fouls. So that shit really pisses me off about Bruno Silva. But outside of that, it was impressive performance. He outclassed Park both on the feet and on the ground. He was piecing him up in the first 2 rounds, and then In the third, Park, he definitely knew that he had to get a finish to win, so he was kind of putting his foot on the gas. But uh, Silva timed the takedown well, and he choked him out with a pretty sick rear naked choke despite not having any hooks in. So, good win for Bruno Silva. He'll keep his place in the rankings after this one. I know I was going to diss on him uh, in my preview video. I was like, I don't know how this dude is ranked, but I guess we do know now. This is a pretty disappointing one for Park. A lot of people are expecting him to win this. This was kind of a gift in terms of getting a ranked opponent. I think that the matchmakers wanted to kind of pay him back for taking the Tatsuro Taira fight on short notice, but after this, it's back to the unranked pool of flyweights, which is pretty competitive, to be honest. There's a lot of killers in the unranked depths of the flyweight division, so I think it'll be tough for him to kind of work his way back up to a ranked opponent. But yeah, on to the next. Danny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. I didn't catch most of this fight. I heard it was a very competitive fight. I saw some people complaining that they thought it was a robbery, but I don't think that it was. I think Santos won. And this is honestly just a bad look for Danny Barlow. He was a guy who was a pretty hyped up prospect at 170. Gets knocked out by Sam Patterson. Decides to move up to middleweight. Gets a opponent who theoretically should have been a pretty easy win for him, given that he lost to fucking Ozzy Diaz in his last fight, and he loses this one. So I honestly don't know what's next for Barlow. He's in a pretty bad spot right now. He might even get cut now, but if not, he's one more loss away from getting cut. As for Santos, he probably just saved his spot in the UFC. He'll definitely at least get another fight after this win. But yeah, it was a good fight between these two. And Stephanie Luciano versus Ravena Oliveira. Luciano wins by round 3 submission. I really don't care, to be honest. Like, unranked women's fights, like, who gives a fuck? One thing about Luciano, though, is she is bad as fuck. So that could, kind of earn her some more fans, as we've seen with, like, Tabitha Ritchie and Mackenzie Dern. So she does have that going for her. All right, here's the last important fight on the card. Azamat Bakoyev gets honestly dominated by Yusri Belagori. I think that's how you say his last name. I'm gonna keep butchering that, honestly. But wow, I did not know about Belagori going into this one. He is a fucking dog. I did not realize that he was basically fucking Alex Pereira 2.0 when I was doing my preview video. I know I said that I thought Bakoyev was going to steamroll him, but I couldn't have been more wrong. He looks really, really good. Like, his striking obviously is insane, given the fact that he's like 6'6" as a middleweight, but his takedown defense also looked really strong too. He was able to stuff a lot of Bakoyev's takedowns, and even when he did get taken down, he was able to get back up to his feet pretty quickly. And I mean, Bakoyev's a guy who's pretty dangerous on the feet, and Belgori was just picking him apart, and he ended up getting the third round knockout. For Belgori, I could honestly see the UFC trying to fast track him up to the top 15, because he's a guy who's clearly very refined as a striker, and if his grappling defense is already looking as good as it is, I think he's probably pretty close to ready for the top 15. I mean, I obviously don't think he's going to get a ranked opponent next, but I think it would probably only take him like a win or two to get a ranked opponent. And for Bakoyev, it's definitely not over for him. Like, he's still a very good fighter. I think he made a lot of mistakes in this one. Like, he was really overextending on a lot of his punches. He was just like swinging for the fences instead of trying to just land good, solid shots on Belgori. Since I know Bakoyev, he did hurt him pretty bad at one point in the first round. So like, he was clearly capable of hurting Belgori on the feet, but he's really just overextending, throwing wild shots. But I think Bakoyev's going to be fine. This was obviously a super tough opponent, due to 6 inches taller than him and has a crazy reach advantage, with good takedown defense on top of that. But I think there's big things in the future for both of these guys. And yeah, sick performance by Belgori. I did not know about him coming into this one, but I definitely do now, and I'm gonna have my eye out for him in the future. So yeah, I mean Melissa Croden versus Tainara Lisboa. Like I guess Croden got the upset. Good for her, but I don't give a fuck. Yeah, those are my reactions to UFC Fight Night DeRitter versus Allen. This was a sick fight night overall, and next week we have got UFC 321. So I will be back in a couple of days with my breakdown and picks for that one. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.